This is all of the major sport events held in Saudi Arabia in 2010 to 2017, and this is all of major sport events held from 2018 to 2023, from motorsport, football, boxing, WWA, golf, and many more. Why is this happening? Why is there such a massive difference between these two periods? Okay, it has to go back to the economy of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has 17% oil reserves in the world, which is the second largest in the world, and also 13% in production. The combination of how many reserves and production is very critical in the oil business. For instance, the most country that has the most oil, Venezuela, has 303.8 billion barrels of oil, but the production in 2020 was only 0.5 million barrels per day, ranking 26th in the world. This difference between reserves and production limits Venezuela's ability to fully capitalize on its oil. But it is the opposite for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has one of the largest reserves and also production, making it tons and tons of money. By just oil alone, Saudi Arabia earns a whopping $326 billion, or 46% of its GDP. But this can't last long.
Every corner of the country is being impacted by climate change.
Rising sea levels already altering this nation's coast.
China's capital is choking in its worst pollution of the year.
5% of species will become extinct.
Sea levels rising, glaciers melting.
Because of this, in 2016, Saudi Arabia's de facto ruler crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, launched Vision 2030. Vision 2030 is a plan that aims to reduce its dependence on oil, diversify its sources of income, and improve its quality of life. To fulfill the plan, Saudi Arabia has been investing heavily in various sectors and companies around the world, especially in the West. Some of these investments are in technology, media, hospitality, and defense. Saudi Arabia has invested about $20 billion in technology companies such as Uber, Lucid Motors, Moderna, and Coursera. It has also invested about $700 million in media companies such as Penske Media Corporation, Live Nation, and Activision Blizzard. In hospitality, it has invested about $2.5 billion, such as Accor in retail companies, and in defense, it has invested $500 million in aerospace and defense company Lockheed Martin. But there is one sector that stands out from the rest: sports. Saudi Arabia has invested a whopping $10 billion. One of the most visible ways that Saudi Arabia has been pursuing its sports ambitions is by hosting major international events in various sports disciplines. For example, in 2021 alone, Saudi Arabia hosted the Dakar Rally, the first Formula One Grand Prix, the first women's golf tournament, and several boxing matches featuring world champions. These events not only generate direct economic impact from spectator revenues, tourism spending, and media rights fees, but also showcase Saudi Arabia as a modern and attractive destination for sports fans and tourists. Hosting events also helps Saudi Arabia achieve some of its social and cultural goals. For instance, by hosting women's sports events, Saudi Arabia signals its commitment to empowering women and promoting gender equality, which is one of the objectives of Vision 2030. By hosting events that involve different countries and cultures, such as chess championships or wrestling shows, Saudi Arabia fosters cross-cultural dialogue and understanding, which can help reduce tensions and conflicts in the region. However, hosting events also comes with some challenges and risks for Saudi Arabia. One of them is the environmental impact of hosting large-scale events that require massive infrastructure development, energy consumption, and waste management. For example, the Dakar Rally was criticized for damaging fragile ecosystems and endangering wildlife in the desert. But the biggest challenge for Saudi Arabia is the human rights issue. Many human rights activists and organizations have accused Saudi Arabia of using sports as a tool to divert attention from its poor record on human rights violations, such as repression of dissent, discrimination against minorities and women, involvement in Yemen's war, and murder of journalists. Some athletes have to express their reluctance or refusal to participate in Saudi Arabia's events due to ethical concerns. Another way that Saudi Arabia has been expanding its presence in the global sports industry is by acquiring stakes or ownership in various sports assets around the world. These include clubs, leagues, franchises, agencies, and media companies. For example, In 2018, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, or PIF, which is the country's sovereign wealth fund with $620 billion in assets, acquired a 5% stake in Endeavor, a Hollywood talent agency that owns the Ultimate Fighting Championship, or UFC, for $400 million. In 2021, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund bought an 80% stake in Newcastle United, a Premier League football club in England, for $400 million. Acquiring assets gives Saudi Arabia several benefits. One of them is financial return. By investing in profitable and growing sports businesses, Saudi Arabia can generate income and diversify its portfolio away from oil. Another benefit is strategic influence. By owning or partnering with influential sports entities, Saudi Arabia can gain access to decision-making power, market opportunities, and network connections in the global sports industry. Acquiring assets also helps Saudi Arabia achieve some of its cultural and diplomatic goals. For instance, by investing in Live Nation or Endeavor, Saudi Arabia can bring more international artists and entertainers to perform in the country, which can enrich its cultural scene and attract more tourists. By owning or partnering with sports clubs or franchises that have loyal and passionate fan bases around the world, Saudi Arabia can enhance its soft power and reputation among global audiences. However, acquiring assets also poses some challenges and risks for Saudi Arabia. By entering different markets and jurisdictions, Saudi Arabia has to abide by different rules and regulations that may not align with its own interests or values. When PIF tried to buy Newcastle United in 2020, it faced opposition from other Premier League clubs and broadcasters over allegations of piracy and human rights abuses. The deal was initially blocked by the Premier League until a legal arbitration process cleared the way for it in 2021. Another challenge is cultural integration. By owning or partnering with sports entities that have different cultures and histories than its own, Saudi Arabia has to respect and adapt to their norms and expectations. The third component of Saudi Arabia's sports strategy is creating its own sports content and intellectual property. This includes launching new sports events, leagues, or platforms that are either based in Saudi Arabia or have a global reach. Creating content gives Saudi Arabia several benefits. Saudi Arabia can introduce new ideas and concepts that can challenge the status quo and appeal to new audiences. For example, LIV Golf claims to offer a more exciting and inclusive golf experience than the existing tours by having shorter formats, fan engagement features, and social impact initiatives. Creating content also helps Saudi Arabia achieve some of its economic and social goals. Saudi Arabia can generate more revenue from hosting fees, sponsorships, media rights, and merchandise sales. Saudi Arabia can control the distribution and monetization of its sports content and reach more viewers and subscribers around the world. Saudi Arabia can create a positive image and narrative of itself that can counter the negative stereotypes and criticisms that it faces. However, creating content also entails some challenges and risks for Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has to compete with the established and dominant players in the global sports industry, such as FIFA, UEFA, and others. These players have more experience, resources, networks, and loyal fans than Saudi Arabia, and they may not welcome or cooperate with Saudi Arabia's new initiatives. So what does Saudi Arabia's sports strategy mean for the global sports industry? Well, there are several possible implications that we can consider. One of them is innovation. Saudi Arabia's sports strategy can stimulate innovation and creativity in the global sports industry by introducing new ideas, formats, platforms, and models that can challenge the existing ones and offer more choices and opportunities for the sports fans and stakeholders. Another implication is competition. Saudi Arabia's sports strategy can increase competition and rivalry in the global sports industry by creating new players, markets, and alliances that can challenge the existing ones and reshape the balance of power and influence in the industry. A third implication is collaboration. Saudi Arabia's sports strategy can foster collaboration and cooperation in the global sports industry by creating new partnerships, networks, and platforms that can bring together different countries, regions, cultures, and disciplines in the pursuit of common goals and interests. A fourth implication is controversy. Saudi Arabia's sports strategy can generate controversy and conflict in the global sports industry by creating new issues, debates, and dilemmas that can divide or polarize the sports fans and stakeholders over ethical, moral, or political matters. Saudi Arabia's interest in sports is not a coincidence or a hobby. It is a deliberate and strategic move that reflects its vision and ambition to transform itself into a modern, diversified, and influential country in the world. Saudi Arabia's sports strategy is not without risks or costs, but it is also not without opportunities or rewards. It is a bold and ambitious move that will have a significant impact on the global sports landscape in the years to come.